Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
It's Wednesday, December 21st. This is The Gateway. I'm Wayne Pratt. U.S. Senator Roy Blunt is heading into retirement after roughly 5 decades in public life. He says his biggest successes involve working with Democrats.
Because almost nobody ever wants to sign up and say, I want to help you get exactly what you want, even if it's not what I want. That is just, there's not a big group for that.
Coming up, St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum talks with Blunt about his lengthy political career. The nasty weather is about to move in. The National Weather Service says winter storm and wind chill warnings will go into effect throughout tomorrow in the St. Louis, Quincy, and Rolla areas. Up to 4 inches of snow and wind chills of 30 below are possible in some locations. The winter blast has animal shelters concerned. Many are already at capacity. St. Louis Public Radio's Brittany Cordera reports.
For 152 years, Missouri Humane Society has accepted animals into its shelter no matter the breed, age, or condition of the pet, even when the pet apartments are full. This season, Laura Keller with the Humane Society has noticed an increase in the number of animals that are being surrendered. But the animals are not just strays. They are coming from nearby shelters that are at capacity.
Many animals that come to the Humane Society have been turned away by other shelters.
With the dangerous cold weather in the forecast later this week, Keller is urging anyone who sees an abused, neglected, or stray pet to call the Humane Society, who can take in animals 24/7. I'm Brittany Cordera, St. Louis Public Radio.
Drivers headed to holiday destinations need to pay close attention to this weekend's forecast. Here's National Weather Service meteorologist Emily Klaus.
This event is going to be impacting a large portion of the United States, and more than just snow. It's going to be impacting it in wind concerns and in wind chill and extreme cold concerns.
Drivers are advised to keep an emergency kit in their cars. They should also check tires and batteries before hitting the road. In other news, Missouri will have a new state treasurer next month. As St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Kellogg reports, it's the 5th time Governor Mike Parson has appointed someone to a statewide position.
Vivek Malik will serve as Missouri's next state treasurer. He will be the first person of color to serve as the head of a statewide office. Malik, an attorney who also serves on the board of governors for Southeast Missouri State University, is originally from India. He will replace Scott Fitzpatrick, who was recently elected state auditor. Fitzpatrick himself was appointed treasurer by Parson in 2018. Anita Mannion, assistant professor of political science at the University of Missouri St. Louis, says stability was a priority for Parson in choosing a new treasurer and attorney general.
We've seen the last 2 attorney generals move on to higher office. We saw the last treasurer that was appointed move on to higher office. So I think it is important to have some stability in those statewide offices.
Malik says he plans to run for treasurer in 2024. In Jefferson City, I'm Sarah Kellogg, St. Louis Public Radio.
A major law firm is leaving downtown St. Louis while a technology company is scaling back its presence in one of the area's historic buildings. The St. Louis Business Journal reports Polsinelli is moving from its office on South 4th Street to Centene Center in Clayton. The law firm has been leasing the downtown space since 1999, and its name has been on the building for roughly 6 years. The newspaper reports Polsinelli cites improved parking and better access to food options as some of the reasons for the decision. The announcement comes as many employers assess their needs as companies go to hybrid working situations sparked by the pandemic. That's the reason for Block's announcement that it will reduce its space in the former Post-Dispatch building by nearly half. Block is the parent company of Square. Second Amendment advocates in Illinois are vowing to fight a proposed assault weapons ban in court. Alex Degman reports.
A measure in Springfield would prohibit the sale and manufacture of assault weapons plus magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Todd Vandermeid with the Federal Firearm Licensees of Illinois told lawmakers that the U.S. Constitution protects the ownership of modern firearms like the AR-15.
We're not here to negotiate. I'm here to tell you that if House Bill 5855 or anything remotely like it passes, we will see you in court.
The bill also raises the minimum age to have a firearm owner's ID card to 21, and it extends the firearms restraining order from 6 months to a year. Lawmakers expect to take this up next month during their winter lame duck session. I'm Alex Degman.
St. Louis's Major League Soccer team has its inaugural season schedule. St. Louis City SC opens its 34-match campaign in Austin on February 25th. The first home game is March 4th against Charlotte. U.S. Senator Roy Blunt is heading into retirement after nearly 50 years in public life. He leaves a substantial political legacy in Missouri. Much of that he attributes to working with Democrats on major issues. St. Louis Public Radio's Jason Rosenbaum has more on his conversation with the two-term senator.
Blunt is respected among Republicans and even some Democrats for putting together a well-organized and disciplined political organization, which helped him prevail in numerous elections since the 1970s. But Blunt says that much of his success revolved around working with, as opposed to defeating, Democrats. He says he's especially proud of his work he did with Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow to expand support for community mental health care centers.
But I think it's one of the better things the Senate rules are likely to encourage is reaching out to somebody on the other side. You're much more likely to have a product that will last.
Blunt's penchant for bipartisanship included a good working relationship with Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill. That happened even though McCaskill ran against Blunt's son for governor, and McCaskill's mother battled it out with Blunt's dad for state representative in the 1970s.
The key to working with somebody, particularly in the Senate, is you don't have to agree with them on everything. You just have to agree with them on that one thing you're working together. And Senator McCaskill and I were always able to find a number of things that we were working hard on that we thought were going to be good for our state. And we were able to do that.
Blunt is leaving office at a time of high political polarization, where ideological purity is often valued more than compromise. And Blunt says this type of thinking is bleeding over into legislative decision-making, which he doesn't think is necessarily a good thing.
Because almost nobody ever wants to sign up and say, I want to help you get exactly what you want, even if it's not what I want. That is just, there's not a big group for that. And I think those people have become incredibly ineffective as legislators. Maybe they're incredibly effective as spokespersons for a point of view. And if that's why you're running for the job, I suppose there's part of the job that can be benefited by that. But I think you've got to be willing to understand that democracy doesn't work that way.
Since entering Congress in 1997, Blunt was at the center of some huge political events. That includes 3 presidential impeachment proceedings, the 9/11 terrorist attacks, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the 2008 financial collapse. Blunt also played a key role in inaugurating Presidents Donald Trump and Joe Biden. He's leaving at a time when Republican voters in particular are often skeptical about the outcomes of elections, a byproduct of Trump's refusal to acknowledge that he lost in 2020. Blunt, a former Greene County clerk and Secretary of State, has some ideas about how to rebuild trust.
And what Missouri does, what Florida did with lots of absentee and mail-in voting, is they have a system that allows them to be ready to count all those ballots on election day and announce it that night. The longer you drag out the result, and particularly when the apparent result seems to change over that 3-day or 3-week process, all you do is encourage people to further question why you can't do a more efficient job and a more accurate job of letting them know what happened on the day that is supposed to be election day.
It's fair to say that much has changed in Missouri politics since Blunt became Greene County clerk in 1973. Back then, Democrats were still a significant political force, and Missouri was a swing state on a presidential level. His successor, Eric Schmidt, came of age in a completely different era of Missouri politics, where the GOP has been dominant in statewide and legislative politics. By contrast, Blunt was the first Republican Secretary of State in more than 50 years when he was elected to that post in 1984.
Rather than talking about some national position of your party and how it related to everything you did. You were talking about the job you did and how you were doing your best to make that job that job better.
Blunt is slated to depart from the Senate on January 3rd. He says he isn't sure what he's going to do after he leaves office, but adds he'll continue to work in some capacity. I'm Jason Rosenbaum, St. Louis Public Radio.
Our Fred Ehrlich edited that report. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Wayne Pratt.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.